Hi, oh my gosh, I'm finally back from Asia now. It's been a couple months and Happy New Year! It's 2026, right? Oh my gosh. Time has gone so quickly and I feel like I need a little bit of a video to, an update video basically. I kind of wanted to make this video because I finally got a job and I'm finally a full-time content creator slash producer. Let me just introduce myself. Hi, I'm Alan and I'm an illustrator, photographer, cinematographer, and I used to do freelance. I graduated from University of Manchester for like Bachelor's of Architecture and I'm finally here now. I'm now a full-time creative as a producer slash content creator, and it's a bit strange saying that since I know I got a job. It's crazy. After graduating, you may have seen me in a few reels. I produce these kind of reels. I work at a cafe in Manchester and yeah, it's so fun, it's so cool. I just want to talk about things on how I kind of got started, being in illustrations, doing photography, doing the videography, cinematography, all that things, doing freelance. And it's so crazy to think that all these kind of things kind of led to this role. I just want to give some tips and some advice as a creative, and hopefully you can learn something. Yeah, I feel like it's so important because there's so much that I learned that I really want to share. I'm still all new to this. But if you want to skip some of the video, there are time stamps, so you can just go straight to the advice. But for now, I want to just update what happened and how I got to this point. I just want to say, this definitely did not happen overnight. Let me just tell you, I grew up, drawing as a child. I'm sure a lot of you guys did, and I'm sure a lot of you subscribed for this because we're all in this digital art thing. And so yeah, maybe back in 2012, I got my first Wacom tablet. Maybe like 2010, 11, I got like a Huron tablet, a really cheap one, and I started drawing on Paint Tool Sai. I was so into digital illustrations. I remember, creating in high school, doing animations, and oh my gosh, I used to do animations on YouTube back in the day. Wow. They're all unlisted, so it's so funny to see like I am still producing videos like I did back in the day. In college, I picked A-level maths, chemistry, photography, and graphics. And that's because I needed something that's STEM based, but I'm still an artsy person, right? I knew that I was gonna go into University of Manchester, so I had to pick STEM-based subjects. I actually dropped out chemistry because it was not needed for architecture, and so I picked photography, so that's why. And I didn't even have any photography skills. I just have a very creative brain at the time. Like, a lot of my illustrations are based off of photography knowledge, and I didn't know that at the time. And I didn't even have a camera at the time. I kept borrowing the college's camera every time I did photo shoot sessions. So it was like an entry-level Canon ED or whatever, 800D, whatever, like those cameras. And honestly, that was perfect enough. It's not about the gear, it's about you as a photographer. And I loved it. Like, they didn't teach you how to take photos or anything. It just gave you creative freedom to, do your own thing. And that's what I needed because I taught myself. I don't know if it's just photography, as a college thing, or A-level thing, sorry. The system is that you just find influential photographers. For me, it was like Kohoki, Jessica, who does like fashion photography, Demas Razuli. They really inspired me, especially, the Japan kind of photography, the travel photography, but also portrait photography. I just love capturing moments. My friends, I love holding a camera and just being so goofy around it and just making good memories. Literally, that's kind of my photography. That's what I'm all about. Oh, and before that, oh my gosh, I used to run a clothing brand back in the day. This is like during COVID, the start, probably before like I finished high school, 2018, 2019, where I started designing this idea, this brand, and it was a very fun project for me. It did well somehow during COVID. It popped off on TikTok. I don't want you guys to remember, and if you do, if you are that small, very, very small percentage, just forget about it, but I really do. Some illustrations I really love, some illustrations I'm just like, why did I even release it? It's so stupid. Like, they're so bad. Some of them I'm like, why did I produce into clothing? I don't know why. But I definitely learned a lot, and it really sparked in me that I could become a creative, independent artist. And that's still something I really want to try to achieve. Oh my god, sorry. The lighting might be really, really like bad just because I used natural lighting and literally blue light. It's very blue. Fast forward, I decided to do architecture school. in the University of Manchester, and oh my gosh, I knew from the get-go, architecture school, I'm not gonna commit into architecture just because I know the money isn't there. And you know, even before going into it, I knew that as, you know, a British-born Vietnamese, you know, I'm like second generation, so parents are born in Vietnam, but I'm born here. And like financially, it was, you know, I cannot commit into a 7-year thing. There's barely any pay at the start or at the end. So literally, it's just, I knew it was such a bad idea. However, I picked it because it was a STEM-based subject, but also creative, and it's very high ranking in, you know, university status. Russell Group University, also based in Manchester too, so there's a lot of financial, you know, incentive to, you know, stay in the city. And I got bursary money from the university, so it just financially makes sense. When I entered architecture school, I did not know a single architect. I had to Google one random thing for my portfolio. Somehow I got in. Amazing. Like during the time of, you know, university, I was also trying to build some kind of freelancing thing. I really still wanted to use my like art skills for something and trying to make some kind of money on it. I barely did. In fact, I got no clients. I just tried, and that's the best part, just trying. I know I failed a lot, and failing is good, and it's how you learn. And I also then went to Japan after my first year of university because of the bursary money, and it was so fun because it's like my first time solo traveling, and a lot of my artwork came from those inspirations. You know, I feel like as an artist, you really improve by seeing too. So new experiences, new tastes, new everything, completely different world, really helped develop my own art. So it's still important to go outside and touch grass, guys, as an artist. Don't be staying in your room. Touch some grass, go to museums or whatnot. But yeah, second year, different story. Second year university is where I really tried to start making something. I really wanted to try make more videos, more artwork, and I did. I'm so glad I tried, and I'm so glad that I just used whatever I had. I had my phone. I just talked about stuff that I was passionate about, and honestly, it somehow worked for like 1-2 videos. Why? I don't know. I somehow managed to connect with a lot of you guys, which is so cool. And it honestly, I really enjoy it so much, seeing all the comments being like how, you know, my information helped you picking digital art stuff. I'm so glad. It really inspires me to do more, and like literally, I'm glad it was that video, but why did it pop off? Why is it those videos? I'm not there yet as a YouTuber. My quality, my content is terrible. In fact, when I went to Japan again, because I got depressed in the first semester of third year, I tried to record my vlogs, my journey. Like, they're so shaky. Don't watch them. They're terrible. I had to cringe because my friends put it on a projector and we all kind of enjoyed my Japan vlogs. They're really just for me, and there might be a few more coming in along the way, but truly that's just for me. Like, I really did try to make some kind of videos, and I learned now that I have like a job and everything, that I just need to produce whatever I can, quality that's sustainable for myself, but also something that I can enjoy. Because if it's too hard, too difficult, and it's too like mentally consuming to do and time consuming, I won't produce anything. It's just the reality of where I'm at now. A little bit on that later. Third year was the most disgustingly terrible year in my life. Like, that academic year really did a toll on me. I went to Japan again because I was so sad and depressed from architectural work. And prior to that, I bought a camera for my birthday, since a camera for me is very important for my own expression, my own creativity, and the work I do too. So it was an investment to get this Sony a7C II camera, and it's quite expensive at the time. In fact, I got my bursary money to pay for this. It is an investment for not only myself, but for my work that I knew I wanted to do. Literally, I went to Japan because university work was getting so difficult. My, mental state was, my family situation wasn't so great. And so literally escapism. I was so silent during that trip. Yeah, so this was 20 to 25, 1st of January, December time, that time. I just filmed. I try to film what I can, try to take as much photos as I can, and I just learned to re-love my creative process again, whether it's just editing or filming silly little videos. I learned to use my camera through that way too, and just going at it, getting hands-on. And Japan is perfect for photography. Filming, not so much. Filming is so kind of nuanced there. It's not something you can do without feeling pressured or anything. So filming yourself in public is not something you kind of do in Japan. Filming in general is kind of like very heavily nuanced. There's a lot to it, but yeah, I tried, and I definitely made some memories, and I definitely did these vlogs that I posted. I came back, had my last semester. I knew I had to just give it my all. And this last semester really also took a toll on me because holy crap, my module tech module was so difficult. Holy crap, I'm gonna waffle a little bit, but architecture is very subjective, obviously. However, there's a rubric system or something like that that's very developed and very, quite good to understand. However, it's also how the tutors feel about your work. So if they have a personal beef against you, you are cooked, because that's what happened with my tutor and a lot of my peers who have the same tutor. This tutor was very, very difficult to work with. This tutor was quite new too and didn't understand fully maybe of the tech module, I don't know, but we all had beef with this tutor, which then reflected on my own grade, and I got a 50 in tech. I was looking at other people's work and we all was like, what the hell, my work is very online with maybe a 60, 65, okay? 62, 65, I was expecting that. I got a 50, I'm confused too. However, thankfully, my other projects lifted me up and I got a 2-1. So a 61, 62, something like that. And yeah, that tech really put me down, but it's okay. I graduated with a 2-1. I knew I was not gonna commit into architecture. I do not have such privilege. Not only that, I am competing with people who built their lives just to study architecture. They went to portfolio schools before applying. They worked with companies, you know. I just simply came into architecture school blindly. It's a career that I really cannot be pursuing. And then here I am freelancing, but I love the student lifestyle. It was amazing. The work was not. Again, as a Vietnamese child of immigrant, second gen, whatever, British born VitQ, I just could not commit to it. It's not something I can do. But yeah, after graduation, I was like, I'm free. I have the time to do all these illustrations, to work on my freelance, to finally get something going for myself. But then I went to Vietnam because, you know, I have family there obviously, so I wanted to see them. It's been 8 years since I went. And I also went back to Japan. I spent time with my friends, some of my family, and you know, I lived alone for a bit in Osaka. I still have that vlog to edit. I returned to the UK and I was locked in. I was working on my job applications, I was working on my portfolio, not just for architecture, but for like freelancing, trying to get something started. And I landed a job somehow, literally so out of the blue, in a cafe called Vibeen, and it's quite new. And I work in the social media side, I work in the content side, the strategy side, the marketing side, all that stuff. That's kind of like my umbrella role. My umbrella term is like content creator, but like I do so much more than just create content. But the outcome of it is about content. I feel like you do have to wear so many hats, and you know, you're like a social media strategist, you are like consultant, you are doing these pitches, you are creating, producing, all these different things, getting new ideas, working with, you know, the cafe too to also like promote different things. There's a lot to it. Honestly, it's such a fulfilling role and I'm so glad and I'm so lucky to even land this job, and it's a full-time thing too. Literally, I landed my dream job and it definitely was not an overnight thing. But yeah, so literally my first advice and my #1 takeaway from this video is share your work, because you never know what kind of post, what kind of sketch, what kind of animation, kind of photo will get you landing a job. Literally, that happens, and it's all about presenting what you have done, being proud of and showing off your work, because yes, I know it might be so daunting to be like, oh, my sketch is so bad. Like, yes, it will be bad because it's a sketch. It's all about your ideas, it's all about what you envision, what you can take, what you can give to the team. And it's not so much about output sometimes. I know, it's so strange. They want to see your skill and how you can be valuable to the team, not just what you can create. Your ideas, the way you think, the way you see things, is so valuable, more than maybe a sketch, you know? Sharing your work is so important because social media is so capable of, you know, connecting other people and like sharing your work. Yeah, you might have a small audience, but then those audience could be connected to companies or like design firms or the people who work in like HR, I don't know, who like somehow saw this work and wants to share it to someone even bigger. Literally, and a lot of the times you will get a lot of rejections, yes, a lot of emptiness, I know, but when you talk to people, they want to see your work. And what do you show? You show your Instagram. I know. So your Instagram is your portfolio nowadays, I swear. Literally, they want to see your work, what you get up to, and I know, a bit of a stalking thing, but you know, LinkedIn is also like that. So just take it as Instagram is our LinkedIn, but in an art field. So really show off what you're doing, because I want to see it. Everyone else who potentially wants to work with you wants to see what you're capable of, what you're passionate about, and what you can bring, you know? You can be talking to someone who might hire you and they'll ask, oh yeah, can I see your work? You whip out your phone and you give them your phone and you show them your Instagram post, because it happens a lot, trust me. Setting some kind of website, I know, maybe that costs some money, but it's kind of important to maybe have a gallery of your work too. But that's what I was trying to work on while I was freelancing, and it was very important so I can send it to people. And I definitely did get a lot of conversations started from my website, from different opportunities, different clients. They were so interested because of the work I've done, but they were only interested because I showed the work. So please share your work. Main getaway, share it. Number 2 is that you are still developing. Things do not work out sometimes, and that's okay. Failure is so important to learn and to get used to. Criticism is so important to get used to. In architecture school, everything we do, we get criticized, right or wrong. Yeah, different opinions, different backgrounds, different perspectives. And it can be so daunting sometimes, and I get it. Rejection hurts sometimes. Do not associate your work so much to yourself, Yeah, you did it, but your work is what you produced then and there. Now you have a different eyes, different perspective. And so, always think of improvement, always think, what's good. And so, yeah, you will fail a lot. And as a content creator, there are days where I come in, I try to shoot things work so well in my head. However, they just don't work out output-wise. Yeah, I said this before, but it's not always about outputs. I know it's so strange coming from a freelance background and then being, in a full-time thing. I expected I need to produce these things. I have deadlines. I need numerical outputs. However, this is a creative thing. It's not numerical. It's not black and white. You get some work that is amazing. Some work isn't your best. And you really shouldn't blame yourself, and you really shouldn't take that. During the beginning, it definitely took a toll on me for a bit when sometimes I wasn't performing as I wanted to. I come in, shoot for an hour or two, and then the results didn't feel on brand. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel right. The content was just unusable, but that's okay. I feel like that's even better because sometimes you gotta learn what's bad. You gotta learn why it didn't work out, and you gotta learn into your clients and what they want and what they see. What's most important when you're working in a team is that the more you learn, the more valuable you are, and the more efficient you become later on. And so when you're first starting out, there will be ups and there will be downs, and that's okay. Sometimes more downs than even ups, that's probably even normal because you're just starting out, right? And I remember I was so sad because I had a week where it was just nothing was working, but I learned so much from it. And in fact, that week after, I did so much better than the first week. And I was producing better quality outputs. Things were working out a lot more. And it was so difficult to get used to because I thought my performance was all about outputs. And yes, it kind of is. Sometimes in a business, it is about outputs and what you can provide efficiently. However, it's a creative role. There needs to be a time where you can mess around and explore different ideas, see what does work and what doesn't. And that is why they hired you too. Your value is also your brain too. What you see, what you learn. It's so difficult. It's so weird to get used to at the start for me, In a creative role, they want you to provide ideas, things that you learn, your experience, not just what you can create. And that's so important. So get used to that, get used to things not working out, and get used to learning and get used to taking criticism. But a little side note, that's not to say you shouldn't take criticism all the time, blindly. Take criticism where you know that you are lacking, where someone's more experienced, but also defend your work, because in architecture school, you have to kind of build some kind of spine, backbone to defend your work. And I feel like that's important because sometimes you work fields where people might not be as experienced in creatively as you. They don't just see things how you see it. You gotta tell them why it works, why it doesn't work, and you gotta tell them why you did these things, because they might be comparing it to something completely different. For example, AI is such a big thing now. People will compare your work to AI nowadays. Oh my God, I remember showing my reels to my coworkers and they're like, oh my gosh, or my photography, they're like, oh my gosh, it looks like AI. And in my head, I'm like, no, AI did not do this. I am AI, I'm a one-man team. I have so many instances of that. And I was like, oh yeah, I have a completely different background in the art field compared to someone who does, I don't know, engineering or something, or someone who does accounting. And they just would see art in a more, consumeristic way. Something they just see for a split second. They don't really think too much of it. And that is why you gotta build up a backbone sometimes and be like, yep, my work is very great because of these reasons. And there's so much deeper reasons why. You spent years of your life, creating, and you get told that it looks like AI. It's a bit, tears in my eyes, AI is built off of stolen artwork, tears in my eyes. However, that is the day and age we live in now. So yeah, when people say, why does it look like this and that, they're comparing it to something completely different than what you are thinking. Just know that. And then my final advice, start with what you have and stay consistent, because oh my gosh, I learned that the hard way. I've always wanted to create videos. I always wanted to create artwork. mentally, I do not have the willpower to create these heavy illustrations that take, 10 hours, 15 hours a week just to complete with tons of development, with inspiration, and you're just yourself. I just forget that sometimes. I'm like comparing myself to production artwork that takes a whole team. There's colorists, there's sketches, there's character development, and I always forget I am myself. Yeah, and that's fine. And that's okay. Your work will not be as developed, as, polished looking as you may have wanted it to be. And that's okay. It really is okay, because what's the point? You're here to create, you're here to express yourself. And the point isn't to create Mona Lisa 3-4 times in a row. That's not how humans work, I swear, We take time to develop new ideas, we take time to mess around, to, fail, and, that's okay. So going back to like my whole YouTube thing, I posted those videos just to get started. They will be bad. Yes, people can start off straight back with a high production team and everything, but that's not fun. That takes money, that takes budget, that takes a whole team. Sometimes you're just you, and what you can produce is very limited. Because eventually, hopefully, you will start being really proud of what you do. Maybe I'm just, Asian, and the fact that I don't get like those kind of words of affirmation. But oh God, you start to be happier of the work you do, and that's not because of the outcome, it's more that you enjoy the process. So let me just say, you enjoy the journey, not so much the destination sometimes. The final artwork will reflect your journey, and that's not to say that it's a final thing, Just start. And the way to be consistent is what I learned, is that you just need to start doing what you can and not expecting anything from it. To be consistent, you need to think about what kind of things you want to produce. And if it's too high, if it takes too much time, too much, money, it could be too much creative power, you need this kind of equipment. You can't do that, especially when you're starting out, so you gotta tone it down. Or if you do, you push it really high, right? You spend so much time on these videos. However, your outputs are low, and then you get burnt out. You won't be consistent at all. It's like going to the gym and doing all out that you crash and you get sick. You burn out, and we don't want that. It's quite unhealthy. Maybe that one project you really want to be perfection, But to be consistent is just doing things that at your own pace that you can do, and just keep going at it. So in fact, this is like my own little reflection about my YouTube channel. There is no direction in this YouTube channel, and for me to keep creating videos that I really enjoy doing, they will continue to be bad until a certain point, Like, editing takes so long. That's literally my advice, just look at the things that you can do and that you can do consistently, and then eventually it will get better and better, Small baby steps, small increases in, improvement is what consistency looks like. I think that's where I'm heading to in this channel. And yeah, I don't know, that's really it. Those are my advice for, new content creators, people new into the field, the creative industry. I don't really do the stuff like this, Thank you guys so much for watching. I will post more now. Make that my 2026 goal.